Welcome to this functional flow that is going to focus primarily on the wrist and the hands, a little bit of the arms and shoulders. But a lot of times I hear people that sometimes doing some of the poses are a little bit difficult, or maybe you're just having some wrist pain that tends to bother you every now and then. So I want to show you a couple of things that you can actually do to help out with that. So to start off, the first thing I'll have you do is actually just coming onto the ground on your hands and knees. Now, sometimes even just getting into this position can be a little aggravating, and that's okay, because the biggest thing is you kind of do things up to your comfort level, and the idea is to try to stretch things out a little bit, but not so much that you're having pain when you do it. And so sitting back on your heels is a good way to kind of start off where it's not too bad. But then the idea will be is you actually kind of push your body and kind of come and do circular motions to kind of start working those bones and the joints that are in your hand. And the idea will be is that every time you do a circle, definitely focus on your breath and stay relaxed and calm, but try to push it a little bit more and try to get a little bit more of a stretch. Now, a lot of you that have been told you have carpal tunnel, or you may think that you have carpal tunnel, this is a great little exercise and movement to work on some of the movement of the wrist. And what's good about it is you're really using the ground, and your hand is planted on the ground, meaning it's a closed chain exercise. And our bodies tend to respond really well to closed chained exercises. So now after doing that for a little while, we'll go ahead and switch it up and go the other direction. So now I'm going counterclockwise. And the idea will be is to keep working on that and keep going as far as you can go. And just work the mobility of the wrists. After you've warmed things up at a good amount for the wrists, I would encourage you to kind of start rotating your wrists. So here we'll go about maybe like a 90-degree turn, and we'll keep working the same movement. So I'm still going counterclockwise, stretching out the joints in the wrist. And even doing this, I can feel some of the tightness in my own hand along my pinky fingers. And that's just showing me there's some tightness there that I got to keep working on. After doing that for a little bit, we'll go in the opposite direction. So now I'll go clockwise. And sometimes you might notice that one way is a little bit easier than the other, where you'll notice different tightness or different sensations. But the idea is just kind of keep going, keep rotating, keep getting that stretch in the wrists. If having your wrist straight down is a little bit too much for you and it feels a little too irritable, all you got to do is just kind of move your wrist out to the side a little bit, maybe even off the mat, and that'll just give you a little bit more comfort. But like I said, as you keep doing it, the goal will be is to try to bring yourself in a little bit more each time until your arms are like right underneath you. After doing that, what I'll have you do is actually rotate your hand completely backwards. And this one can be really aggravating for people. So sometimes just being in that position is enough. And even being in this position, sometimes it looks a little awkward and it looks, oh man, that's extreme. But if you think about it, doing that position is really no different than just kind of putting your hands down in front of you. Okay, we've kind of been waving high and now we're just putting them down. And that's basically all you're doing. Same thing with this one. If being in that position is a little bit too intense, you can kind of walk your hands back, maybe towards your knees a little bit, and that'll release some of the tension there. But the goal will be is to try to have that hand completely underneath your body as you do it. And just playing with it. So if you're doing it too much and you feel too much of a stretch, just back it off. Or if you like, you can just focus on one hand, just the other hand keeping it a nice neutral fist. But let's still do those circular movements. And right now, I'll go clockwise. And then switch it up going the opposite direction. Okay. I'll put my fist down for my left hand and then use my right hand and do the same thing. So rotate it. And even while you do it, let's go back the other direction. Remember to keep breathing. Nice deep breaths. Really good stretch exercises for your wrists. Now what I'll have you do is you'll come back up onto your fists. And with this one, what I'll actually have you focus on is just kind of now bringing your hand down towards the other direction. So your fingertips kind of facing each other. Getting that stretch in your hands and your wrist. This one, the same idea. If that gets to be a little bit too intense, then you just kind of back it off, maybe bend your elbows a little bit. But try to have it as straight as you can to stretch out some of those muscles. And the same idea, just kind of work those little circles. And putting them back into fists kind of gives you more of a stretch for those muscles of your fingers. Extend your digitorum, the extensors of your muscles. And then go the opposite direction. Same thing. All right, good. Now we'll come up onto our fists, kind of give it a little break, a nice neutral fist. And what I'll have you do is have you put your palms down and then just practice rotating your wrist, planting your palm, bringing it back forward. Rotate it, plant it, bring it back. Really good motor control of the wrist and the fingers. Then we'll do some on the right. Same idea. And after you've done that, we'll do some rocking back and forward. Come and try to sit all the way down onto your heels. Coming forward. This one's a little bit too intense. All you gotta do is just plant your hands out a little bit further out. Like I said, try to have them right underneath you to get a good stretch. And then on this last one, go ahead and sit back on your heels. You may need to spread out your legs a little bit, let your toes come together. Now what I'm gonna have you do is you'll walk out your hands as far out in front of you as you can. Letting your forehead come down to the ground. And take a deep breath. With your hands, try to feel the ground. Stretch out your fingers as much as you can. Take a couple of nice, long, deep breaths here. All right, come back up, walk your fingers back.
That's pretty good mobility and exercises for your wrist to help out with some of that wrist pain that you may be feeling. Hopefully it starts to go away and you notice more flexibility. If anything comes up, or if you notice any kind of pain or discomfort with that, definitely just back it off or just do a little bit less. Make sure you're not as much of an angle and just kind of work your way up as you go. But that'll be really good, especially if you're a computer worker or you do a lot of repetitive movements with your hands and your wrists. That'll definitely keep things nice and happy in your forearms that go up actually into your elbow and down into your fingers. Well, that was our functional flow for some of the wrists and finger joints. Join me next time and we'll continue to work on getting that body moving.